When you walk into a grocery store, you'll see on fruits and vegetables labels that proudly say that they are GMO free. What does this mean? As you know, the media is against GMOs, as they have been for the last couple decades, and they're right for a couple reasons, one of which is it is new. It's only been around for about 40 years, so a substantial amount of research has not been done yet. The other reason is only a few organizations can create GMOs, so the world runs the risk of a few companies controlling the world's supply of food. But that's why I'm here to talk to you about the value behind GMOs, not the politics behind it. More importantly, I want to talk to you about the value behind genetically modified plants, not just organisms. With the research that has been done already, it's proven to show that genetically modified plants can both help us and the environment, us being healthier and the environment to be safer. So I'll quickly explain what genetically modified organisms, in my case plants, will be. On the left, it's easier to explain what a genetically modified organism is by saying what it is not. It is not selective breeding. Selective breeding takes centuries, if not thousands of years, to get your desired plant or animal. What happens is you have a herd of cattle, you take the two strongest, the tallest, the most healthy, you breed them. You breed the next best in their children, and so on and so forth, until you get the cows we have today and the cows we'll have 1,000 years from now. Genetically modifying an organism, for example, take corn. If there's a disease that's harming corn, you can take an organism that's already immune to that disease, take their gene, put it in the seeds of corn, and now corn's modified. That takes years, at most decades, to complete. Here I have on the left an example of corn thousands of years ago to corn today. It's much bigger, it's healthier, but selective breeding, as you can see on the right, you have lots of different corns that have resulted over the years. So what I mean by that is not all the corn that you see there is edible and corn that we want to eat. That's one of the downsides of selective breeding. The upsides to genetically modifying corn is every single corn that you produce will be the same. They will all be resistant to the same diseases, and they all will be the same nutrition. So the health benefits of genetically modified plants. On the left you have golden rice and biofortified sweet potato. Golden rice was created primarily for children in developing countries, and what would happen is as they grow up they're deficient in vitamin A, so they have vision deficiencies, and blindness can also occur from this. Golden rice was created to substitute the normal rice that they eat, and golden rice is intended to have their daily needed amount of vitamin A to prevent deficiencies. It was outcompeted by biofortified sweet potato. Golden rice is still being worked on to become more efficient, but the idea behind it is we can get vitamins into foods and make us healthier. The other way to make us that benefits humans is we can get more quantity out of genetically modified organisms. An example is these 4 organisms that I have on the bottom right. The percentages that you see there are the percentages of those products being produced in the US that are genetically modified. So very few of them are not genetically modified. And that's because those are resistant to pesticides, herbicides. So they're natural pesticides, so they naturally deter insects. They're much less likely to get diseases, to be eaten up by insects, and so farmers have a much higher yield. I'll come back to that in a second. On the top right, you have tomatoes that they've figured out how to extend their ripening period so they can sit on a shelf for twice as long, which means we don't throw away as many tomatoes from being bad. Thankfully, in the genetic world, what helps us also helps the environment. This is a chart from a meta-analysis done by some Germans, and they took 147 studies and they found 147 different field studies, put them all together. Most important stats are on the left, and that's the yield percent and pesticide use. Pesticide use was with genetically modified organisms is reduced significantly, and the yield is significantly increased. The good thing about yield being increased is you can get the same amount of crop with less land, which means CO2 emissions decrease because farming equipment's not used as much. Water is decreased, water usage, because you're not farming as many plants. Pesticide usage is decreased not only because you're using less plants, but also because the plants are natural pesticides, which means pesticides aren't getting into the environment and harming nature in that way. And this is the result of farming becoming more effective. Like I said earlier, whenever you have crops that are all identical, all resistant to the same disease, all growing the same size that you want, all of them are going to be exactly what you want. Also, the other thing that can help the environment with genetic modification is saving plants from going extinct. The papaya tree was saved from extinction a few years ago. As you can see on the left, that's an infected one. The one in the middle is genetically modified. Almost all papaya nowadays are genetically modified, and that's because scientists found a way to take a gene from an organism that was resistant to this disease and put it into the papaya. Today they are very healthy and growing well. So, genetically modified organisms are a controversial topic. There are amazing benefits for humans. More food, healthier food. It's better for the environment, less pesticides, more quantity, less crops needed to be farmed. I'll leave you with this. An entomologist, a black scientist from the University of Kentucky, said while the FDA regulates genetically modified foods, it considers corn and other genetically modified foods to be nutritionally equivalent to traditional corn and foods. So, you are what you eat, as the saying goes, so why not eat the same amount, but be healthier? Thanks.